Alright, this is lesson 18 exit ticket. There's only 2 questions. Throws us a little bit for a loop. We've been practicing area of a circle and circumference of a circle. We have here, we're going to deal with semicircles. Okay, semicircles. So if our formula for area of a circle is A equals pi r squared, okay, and my pi is a little funky there. Should be like this, something like that, pi r squared, okay? That's a whole circle, right? A whole circle. But if we just want half of the circle, all we have to change about our formula is that we need to multiply it by 1/2. So our formula becomes A equals 1/2 pi r squared. Okay? We're going to need to know that for these 2 problems here. Okay? Number 1 says, Ken's landscape gardening business creates odd-shaped lawns which include semicircles. Find the area of this semicircle section of the lawn in this design. Use 22/7 for pi. Okay? So we got our formula here. A equals pi r squared. And actually, that's not what we have because we don't have a regular circle. We have a semicircle, so we need to use the second formula. A equals 1/2 pi r squared. Okay, bring down my A. A equals 1/2. Now I'm going to substitute for pi. It tells me to substitute 22/7. So I'm multiplying by 22/7. And I'm multiplying by our radius squared. So if I look at this semicircle here, the diameter, the whole length of it, is labeled 5. So if I wanted to find out the radius, my radius would just be 5 divided by 2. Well, I can use that as my radius. So my radius is 5 divided by 2. Oop, I said 2 and I wrote a 4. 5 divided by 2. And I'm going to square that. Okay? So all I did was substitute. The 1/2 stays the same. I substituted 22/7 for pi, and I substituted 5/2 as my radius, and I squared it. Okay? So I end up with, if I take 5/2 and I square it, 5/2. 5 ABC2, and I square it. I change that to my calculator will tell me. So all I did here was 5 ABC2 squared gave me 6 1/4, and I want to make it an improper fraction. I just click the second button, and then I click the button that says ABC to DE. And I end up with 25/4. So I can just carry down my 1/2. I want to get all fractions times 22/7. I just brought that down times. Now 5/2 squared turns into 25/4. A equals, and now I just multiply those fractions together. 1 ABC2 times 22 ABC7 times 25 ABC4 equals 9 and 23/28. Our unit of measurement is meters, and it's areas, so we square it, meters squared. Okay? If I want to use it as a decimal, I could say A is approximately, and all I do on my calculator, if I want to turn a fraction to a decimal, you hit the second key and you find the F to D. It means fraction to decimal or decimal to fraction. Click that button and you end up with it as a fraction. We could say 9.821 meters squared. That would also be correct. Either answer is correct. Okay. So all right, let's look at number 2 here. Okay, number 2 says, in the figure below, Ken's company has placed sprinkler heads at the center of the 2 small semicircles. The radius of the sprinklers is 5 feet. if the area in the large semicircle area is the shape of the entire lawn, how much of the lawn will not be watered? Give your answer in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth. Explain your thinking. Okay. So, the first thing, and I think this is a little confusing, but apparently they're saying the radius of the sprinklers is 5 feet. So these smaller semicircles, the radius would be halfway. That's what the 5 is. Okay, the 5 feet is halfway there. Okay, so that would make the other half here also 5 feet. Okay, and same thing over here. This would be 5 feet, and this would be 5 feet. So our entire diameter, of the small semicircle would be 10 feet. Okay. And the diameter of our other one would also be 10 feet. The other small semicircle is also 10 feet. And everything, okay, the large semicircle, the whole thing would be 20 feet. Okay. So, we would use, what we need to do, all right, is we need to find the area first of the large semicircle. This is the whole lawn. We need to find all of the area, the whole thing. Okay, so we're trying to find the whole area. Then we'll take that and we'll subtract out the area of this semicircle and the area of this semicircle, because those are the areas that are getting watered. And what we'll be left with, if we take the whole thing, subtract this area, we'll be left with the area up here that is part of the lawn but not getting watered. Okay? So, first thing we need to do is find the area of the whole lawn. The whole lawn is a semicircle, so we're going to need to use our semicircle area formula. A equals 1/2 times pi r squared. A equals, we'll bring down our 1/2. Our pi we're going to leave as pi, okay? And our radius of the whole thing. So if the whole thing is 20, our radius would end up being 10. Okay? So the diameter is 20, the radius is 10. And we're going to square that. Area equals, we'll do our 1/2 times our pi times 10 squared. 10 times 10 is 100. Okay? A equals 1/2 of 100 is 50. A half of 100 is 50, and we keep the pi. So 50 pi is the area of the whole thing. Okay? So that would be labeled feet squared. Okay? Now, we need to find the area of one of the small semicircles. So our formula stays the same. A equals 1/2 pi times r squared. A equals 1/2 times pi. Our radius of the small, okay, now if we're looking just at the small, okay, it tells us, it labels the radius of our small. Our radius is the distance from the edge of the circle to the center point is 5 feet. So we need to take that 5 and square that. A equals, bring down the 1/2, bring down the pi, 5 squared. 5 times 5 is 25. Okay. Our area then is, and actually now that I'm looking at the book, what they're doing in the book is they're actually taking this and multiplying this whole thing by 2, because there's not one semicircle, there's 2 semicircles. So this whole thing should be multiplied by 2. When you multiply 1/2 times 2, it's 1. So you're going to end up with just 25 pi. Okay. if we were only doing one semicircle, we would only do this. But since there's two semicircles, we have to multiply our formula by 2. Okay? So 2 times 1/2 is 1. 1 times 25 pi, anything times 1 is itself 25 pi. Okay? Feet squared. So the area in here plus the area in here equals 25 pi feet squared. The whole thing is 50 pi feet squared. So we take our larger, we take the large semicircle, which is 50 pi minus the area that is getting watered, which is 25 pi. 50 minus 25 is 25 pi. Okay? So it says give your answer in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth. So our answer in terms of pi is 25 pi feet squared. Now we also need to give it in a decimal form, so we'll need to use something for pi. If it doesn't tell us, we use our pi button on the calculator. Okay, so we got 25 pi. Hit our equal sign, we get 78. And we're going to round to, what's it say? In our directions it says round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so we have 5, 3. The 3 tells us to keep the 5 as is. Okay, so our area equals, area is about, when we round it, is 78.5. The 3 tells us to keep the 5 as is, and our label is feet squared. There's our second answer. So we completed what we did. Okay. We've answered in terms of pi and in terms of to the nearest tenth. Explain your thinking. All we'll need to say is what our answer means. The sprinklers will not cover 78.5 feet squared of the lawn. Done. Little confusing, but thanks for sticking with me and figuring it out. Don't forget to study for your test.